Welcome to the Enjoy More 30s Family Finance Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to making life more enjoyable for young families by hitting on the financial topics that tend to weigh on us, stress us out, and distract our focus from simply enjoying life.
Hello, and welcome once again to the Enjoy More 30s Family Finance Podcast. So every week I am here talking to you about money so you can take some steps forward, gain that confidence, and just remove that financial anxiety. That's what we're trying to do to allow you to focus solely on making your life more enjoyable. This series, as you know by now, all about the kids, the Your Kids Money Mindset series, and we're going to continue doing that for you here today. As parents, we want, obviously, to help out our kids. That's a no-brainer. We all know that's true. But it seems we're programmed as parents to feel this obligation many times to help pay for college. Everybody's doing it. If we're not giving that to our kids too, then it's almost like we're bad parents sometimes. But what if we looked at something else? What if we helped them pay for an even bigger future expense instead? Now, as always, if you like what you're hearing, please make sure to subscribe or follow us on whatever podcast app you listen to, wherever you go. Clicking that star, leaving the review, it really, really helps us out. We want to reach millions, all the millions of other young families out there just like you. Now, last week, if you remember, we discussed all savings for your kids through life insurance policies, the so-called kind of Gerber policies, and dug into why, in my opinion, if you're trying to save, if the goal, the primary driver is, I want to save for my kids, then you almost certainly don't want to be going about doing that through that life insurance policy. So if you haven't checked out that episode yet, definitely do that soon. Now for today's episode, it's titled Give Them Education or Retirement, which is a really odd title. Probably you haven't heard it put that way before. But we're going to cover something, like I said, it might initially sound crazy, but it's really an intriguing way of looking at it. It's an intriguing idea that may be more attractive than you could realize. The goal for today's episode is to help you understand that you do have choices for how you choose to help your children. We know you want to help. I'm going to just go ahead and assume you want to help your children. So let's make sure you know all the options that are at your disposal. When I went to college, I knew absolutely nothing when it came to money. Zero. And had very little appreciation for money. I was 18 years old. I mean, what did you really expect? If you think back to when you were 18 years old, I would guess you were probably in a similar boat. I knew working in high school that, it was hard and I valued the money that I earned. But, everybody goes to college, right? I hear everybody takes out loans, right? So, part of me was like, who really cares? This is normal. Taking out a bunch of loans is normal. And the value and the amounts that added up, they don't really resonate with you at that point in your life. I was offered a full ride to Montclair University. So they were like, here, take $100,000 for free, which I, obviously being the intelligent 18-year-older that I was, passed up to go to TCNJ and pay money and take out loans. Now, I did meet my wife, Lauren, at TCNJ, so I have to say, obviously, it was 100% worth it, but from a financial standpoint, that was like, crazy stupid. So 18-year-olds going to college are, for the most part, not financially intelligent, at least what I've come across in my opinion. The loans that I had after college, though, were in some ways a blessing to me. They taught me that, hey, this is what tens of thousands of dollars of debt looks like, right? This is what it is. This is what having to pay back loans looks like. This is basically, what being responsible. This is being an adult. This is what this looks like. And what I found in being an advisor is that most people want to kind of replicate whatever their parents did for them, whether that be, some loans or paying 100% of the school costs for the kids so they don't have that hanging over their head. The other option, though, that can be incorporated, which is this crazy idea, right, is retirement instead or in conjunction to this traditional college focus. So with paying for college, you're trying to get them ready for that race to come, right? We want to get all this off of them, do the training, the conditioning, the endurance, so that when they get out of school, they have less over their heads, less weight on their shoulders, and boom, they're just ready to go. Thinking about retirement instead though, is kind of like just saying, instead of trying to only focus on the conditioning, the endurance, the training, all that kind of stuff, why don't I just try to make the race a little bit shorter? And then they don't need as much, maybe. So it's a different way of approaching it. So here's kind of how it works. And like anything, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to only save for college or only save for retirement, but these are just all your options so that you know what you have to choose from, at least when you mix them together in whatever proportion makes sense for you. So let's say that you save $150 a month for your kids to go to college. So 18 years worth, when they're 18 years old, if we assume a 7% return, you end up with around $65,000. And if you use this for college in the more traditional way, then this is all gone, right? And for simplicity's sake, just for the sake of this explanation, let's say they went to maybe a community college or in-state or whatever combination, but $65,000 was the perfect amount. It covered the whole entire bill. So certainly not a bad setup for them then, right? Here's where it gets fun though. So let's say that they took out loans for the full amount, which for those who had some school loans and valued that lesson, that might be a goal anyway. Like for me and my kids, I kind of want them to have some degree of loans because I did, and I feel like that really did teach me a good lesson about what debt looks like, and this is what your choices look like later on down the road. So what if instead now, so we still have this $65,000, and we instead give it to them in something like a Roth IRA into contributions over the next 10 to 12 years, whatever it might be. So every year we put money out of this pool that we created for them, we're putting into this Roth IRA. Over 11 years with the $6,000 a year limit, we put all $65,000 into the Roth for them. All right, so now when they're 65 and they're ready to retire, what did you give them instead now, assuming that same 7%? So I can either give them $65,000 for college, or I give them $65,000 for retirement. That $65,000 at age 65 now, when your kid is ready to retire, is worth roughly $1.5 million at that 7%. And oh wait, if we use the Roth IRA, it's completely tax-free. You saving $150 a month for 18 years was $1.5 million of tax-free money for them at age 65 for retirement. I mean, how huge is that? So when we compare, would you rather have, in this example, the $65,000 pay off all of these college loans, or that $65,000 give them $1.5 million when they're about to retire of tax-free money? What would be your choice? And I'm not saying there's a wrong choice or a right choice, but you could see that there's definitely at least a choice. There's something to think about. There's something to pause and say, maybe I want to evaluate this option over here a little bit at least. Now, a completely fair comment is that this is a really long payoff, right? This is a long-term gift. I'm starting now, and they're not getting that for a long, long time. And it may feel difficult to give for such a long time payoff into the future. And again, that's completely fair. I get that. At the same time, you're actually giving them something in the present if you share that this strategy is in existence, is an application for them today. You need to pay off your school loans over the next 10 years, most likely, true. That's the deal, Johnny. But when you have your own family and trips to Disney and all that other stuff living in the present that you want to do, I'm giving you the freedom to go do that. Because you already know that a huge chunk of your long-term retirement goals are now off your shoulders. You don't have to have that weight on you. I'm giving you freedom of the present moment. I'm not actually giving you money at this point in time. I'm putting it away for your long-term future. But what I'm giving you in the present is the freedom to go and live with your family. So you are giving them something if you phrase it like that. Just like when I was going to college and didn't value the free ride, your kids likely when they get out of school and you tell them to save early, they probably won't get that either. They'll probably say, well, I really want that new car. Or, well, no, I really want to move out of mom and dad's house and into an apartment where I can have some fun. Saving early probably won't hit them, just like taking out loans didn't hit me when I was 18 years old. When you start working as a full-time job, it feels like a huge paycheck. It might be something that's relatively low. You wouldn't say, oh, wow, that's a huge amount of money. But when you go from making nothing at all to like $40,000 a year, or whatever it might be, it feels huge. And your first thought isn't, yay, now I get to save for my long-term future. That's why we get, and you probably have heard many people say, maybe even yourself saying, if I only started when I was young. You're taking that off of them now. Remember, they can take out loans for college. That is definitely 100% a thing. But no one will give you a loan to get through your retirement. That's true for you, and it's true for them too. So remember the goal for today. Do you have to do this at all? No, of course not. You don't have to do any of this. If I'm being honest, I'm still planning on helping my kids to some degree for college. But I also plan on helping fund some of their long-term needs like retirement because I can get a lot more time for it to grow and therefore a lot more bang for my buck. Personally, if I can teach them about money through some student loans and also free them up to be able to enjoy more time with family and make more memories with their kids because those long-term burdens aren't on their shoulders, I don't want them to feel pressure, I have to work excessive hours to give my kids a good life and then deprive them of what kids tend to want more than anything anyway, which is just you and your presence, then to me, that's a win-win. But as always, it is what you want to accomplish. So again, that's the goal for today, not to do this strategy, but to know all your options and the angles and the positives and the negatives so you're more confident in whatever one you choose. Overall, thanks so much for tuning in today. I always love connecting with you. Join us here again next week for the episode that we're calling You Want to Trust? Do you know why? Where we're going to cover some basics of these things called trusts. You've likely heard of them about, here and there on TV. Otherwise, they may seem very advanced and beneficial and for the very wealthy, but may likely be something that you don't actually need. You might not actually have to worry about these things called trusts. So we'll give you more background, more education on that so you know whether or not it's even something you should be looking into more. Overall, if you are able to implement what we covered today, fantastic. You have less to worry about than before. You can focus more on enjoying life. That's what I want to help you do. If you're wanting help with any of these things though, if you have questions you need help in clarifying, check out the Ask Joe section on the show's website, www.enjoymore30s.com. That's enjoymore30s.com. Until next week, thanks for joining me today, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
The conversations on this show are Joe's opinions and provided for general information purposes only. They do not constitute accounting, legal, tax, or other professional advice for your specific situation. You should always seek appropriate advice from a financial advisor, accountant, lawyer, or other professional before acting upon any content or information found here first. Joe is affiliated with New Horizons Wealth Management, LLC, a branch office of TFS Securities, Inc., and TFS Advisory Services, an SEC-registered investment advisor, member FINRA/SIPC.